Hey, good morning from the dojo. It's Mike Magoo. Happy Labor Day weekend. Is that what it is? I think that's what it is. I thought I'd do a labor type video just about my story and the story I didn't write called The Reseller, which is about what else? eBay and other type reselling and the cottage industry that it is and the secret little home type side hustle business it can be, the lucrative business it can be, the YouTube cottage business of, people teaching others how to do it, which I never really got fully into, but I dabbled around and I like to give some advice, and I did learn a lot from other people, and I did take um, solace in the support of others making a living doing this, because it's has such stigma and dogma attached to it. It's kind of silly, especially since my grandfather, made his way in America and did quite well with, junk and antique stores in Manhattan to start. So, he started out selling balloons and junk in the park as a kid when he got here from Russia, and then started, developed, antique stores, and he just knew how to flip something. I think there's a natural inherent thing in my family or in my blood to flip, and that's how I became a procurement guy, because I know how to get a good deal. I know when you're paying too much for something or not, and sometimes you do because you want to, and everyone has different strategies. And today, sometimes, we all abuse eBay. Like, it's such an annoying thing. They're the boss, they're the mall, they're Simon, they're the whole thing. But deep down, without those platforms, without that platform, I'd probably still be stuck in, my old PTSD'd out job. And, more money, but more money, but worse life. And the money never seems to stay. It just ends up getting spent on stuff to keep up that life. And so when I was going through, I went through the stuff with the schools. I won't even get into all into it. When I try and revisit this for the reseller story, the book, I get stuck. I have a hard time doing it. I've had the AI do it, and it changes the story around. I'm like, I like it. It's funny, but that's not what happened. So eventually, maybe with the help of a therapist, I will get this book out. But I think a lot of resellers out there will commiserate, will understand, and will relate and identify. So, maybe one day I'll get that thing together. I actually wanted to put some of the YouTubers in it in little spots just to add a little spice, But anyway, back to labor. So I had no jobs, basically, and I was living in the most expensive place in the country, and we couldn't even juggle the debt much anymore. And so the plan was an agreement that when my son goes to college, we sell the house and we move somewhere else. We ended up going down south to Florida. It was just as expensive. My wife hated it. I went from working in 90 degrees to 100 degrees. Everything promised didn't turn out as it was supposed to, because it wasn't planned properly, and it was a desperation move, and it didn't really work out. So within 4 months we were divorced, and blah, 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 blah. But regardless of all that, for work, I started to do some eBay again. I was just going to thrift stores and flipping some things here and there just to kind of stay busy. And every time, or one time, I contacted eBay for some customer service stuff, and they were like, "Thank you for being with us for 21 years. And I'm like, what? And I realized that way back, I started my store way back, even right after I lived in Austin, I think, when I was back in New York. And I think one of my friends sold like an REO Speedwagon shirt. He got it at the Goodwill or at the bins for like, 50 cents or $1 back in the 90s. And he sold it on eBay for like 25 or 30 bucks. And we all just shit our pants and went, what? You can do that? And those were the years that a lot of vintage apparel, it wasn't thrift then, it was vintage or retro or vaudeville or whatever, and those stores crept up, and there was a lot of cool clothing that came out all during the grunge and the alt days, or pre that, during the glammy days and all. So there's been into the punk era. And so, vintage fashion was a thing. Now thrifting is kind of more of a thing, because clothing has become so boring and fast fashion, ubiquitous crap that, it's harder to even, I don't know. So I don't even want to explain it, because I've always been out there. I wear my own junk t-shirts, and, I was a grunge head. I was wearing, combat boots in the summertime. And, I get my fashion sense from between, Seattle and Dee Dee Ramone. So I don't take it too far. I scoff at a lot of fashion, even though I think I love the creativity, but I'm like, come on, man. Nobody wearing that, nowhere, no how ever. But let's get back to the story at hand. So I decided I'm just going to make a go of eBay and maybe try to do some art again, write and do this and that. But again, the book never came out. I did write a children's book, and that hasn't sold, but people like it. It's getting decent acclaim, but Putting out an ebook these days isn't all that impressive. But I did write it, and I did have somebody illustrate it, and it's pretty cool, called Tiki and the Bees, but that's not, promo's not supposed to be in this. That's not part of Labor Day. This is about eBay, and so I made a weird move. I usually flip clothing. I was starting to hit auctions, estate sales that were plentiful in the area, in both areas actually at the time, and I was padding my store because I would buy some things there that would go for either for local sale or something I needed at home. Like I would find good furniture or something like that. Furniture goes dirt cheap at these auctions because nobody wants to move the stuff and it's hard to resell. So unless you need it or want it, you know, it's not. So I was finding cool posters and things like that. And there would always be like CDs and, you know, DVDs and magazines and things that would just be lotted up that no one would bid on. So for like $10, I'd get a box of these like hot rod magazines and things like that. So I padded my store with those, and that sustained me during the year. And then there was one auction for basically all of this gun firearm optics, vintage scopes, mostly Unertl, UNERTL scopes, which are a German scope that was basically the military issue through 3 wars or so, through like Vietnam, Korea, maybe even World War II, but definitely Vietnam, Korea, and up to the Gulf War. And a lot of these competitions, these gun guy competitions and military competitions, are specific about having to use correct equipment for the era or for the time. So you can't have some new modified thing. You're having a shooting competition with the actual equipment from the time. But stuff gets harder and harder to find. So I found an auction, and it turned out I'm in Florida now, and this auction was 2 minutes from where I used to live. I used to coach soccer in this town. My son's school bordered on this town. My dry cleaners was in this town. So that's how close it was, like 30 inches. It's literally a block. In fact, if you cross the street, the houses went up in their neighborhood, but their taxes went way up. And ours were a little bit lower. Pretty much the same, just because of the name of the town. And we shared the schools. But I was already in Florida at the time, and this was way back in New York. But anyway, he was just selling all of these great optics for firearms, all in the box, all like pristine condition. I knew nothing about these things. He had some binoculars too, but I just knew there was something special about this, and I could tell by the way they were kept that this guy was, and I knew where he lived. I knew that area, and I said, this guy was a guy who had money and was bored and was a collector and would get these and open the box and look at it once or twice, not even shoot it and with it, not even mount it on a gun, and just put it back in the box, and there it went. And that's basically how most of these were. And so I took a risk, and I was like, man, the prices are good now, and they were going up, way past anything I'd ever done before. I never did anything like this. I usually buy clothing at Goodwill or something like that. You know, I spend $100 at a time, maybe 200 tops. If something really cool I know I could flip is there. This came to $6,000, $6,600 to buy all the ones I wanted to buy, and I ended up getting them for between like $350 and $500 a piece. And I comped everyone as I was going as best I could, and I could tell that if these were in the condition I thought they were in, they would go between $600 and $2,000 a piece, maybe even more. I had a little bit of delusions of grandeur that they might, but I was like, not on eBay, you know. That wasn't going to happen. If I held out for auctions or I took them to different places, maybe, but you know, none of them were in that sweet spot of collectability. They were all just valid and good and desirable for what they are. And so I started listing them, and I realized that like I had to move out of Florida, which was a difficult thing. And my money was tied up in divorce. My credit was completely shot from juggling the debt back on Long Island. And I knew money was coming eventually, but for now I had to live, and I just could not tolerate getting another PTSD type job. And so I said, I got to make this work. So I stepped up the eBay completely, and I made the decision to do this. I bought those. I was going to drive all the way to New York and get them, and then I actually talked to the guy, worked out shipping for like $250, and he shipped them down. So I got them all. It all worked out fine. And I decided to just kind of like pad my income with these throughout the year of 2024. And so every month I would sell 1 or 2 scopes and make a profit, you know, and so, but they were already paid for, and that money was gone. So I didn't care. It was just money now I was living off of. And so, you know, I was really having a rough month. I had a little bit of my pension. I had to give half my pension away I lost 3/4 of my pension when I PTSD'd out. And then I have to split that quarter with my ex-wife. So it's like it's nothing now. It wasn't part of the plan, and it's just like a little extra dough. And now it's basically paying for my son's college rent. So I don't even see it, but that's okay. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But I was selling all those scopes one at a time and bringing in money. And it was like that would pad my month. Like at the end of the month, I just sold a scope and it brought in $1,200, and that's, so eBay took theirs or whatever. It brought in 1,000, say, or it brought in 1,100 after all fees and everything. And I was like, that $1,000 just covered my nut for parts of it patched all the gaps in the nut for the month. And without me having to go out and get another job or drive Uber or do some other side hustle, or because I wasn't in a position. I'm either in a position to do shitty side hustles or real corporate government type jobs, and I'm just not in a position to do those. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. It makes me ill. And I'm like, so I've rigged my life now so I don't have to do it. So this Labor Day is pretty amazing in that here's the last of the scopes. I don't have to sell it. I kind of want to keep it as a souvenir. I kind of want to sell it 1/4 and 1 1/4 varmint black anodyne number 12, something like that. So this is some 12 gauge. It's a universal scope with a 1.5 inch view for 12 gauge shotgun of some sort or a rifle or whatever. So I don't know, but yeah, so I feel like this reverence and appreciation for it. It forced me to go out and learn a little. It put me back in the business. Now I'm way back into clothes, much more than I want to be, because where I am, clothing is like, I have bins on steroids here. So if I want to, and it's therapeutic for me to go buy, so that's okay. But when I want to go, I just go, I load up. My problem is I don't want to take pictures. I don't want to do the whole business thing. I'm not that hungry right now to do it. But I'm getting to the point where I have to again because my back's to the wall. And where I am now, I'm not going to find another one of these. So I'm just appreciating today that plan, that craziness when I told people, yo, I bought all these scopes. I'm going to sell them over the year and try to live off it. And people were like, yeah, okay, Mike, enjoy your mental illness. And I'm like, I just want to let you know, it worked. It happened. It came out exactly as I said. I sold basically over the course of 13, 15 months, sold all the scopes but one and the binoculars, and I think a couple of sets of microscopes. That's it. And yeah, it was a little stressful at the time. I'm still been selling clothes. I just sold some lotions that I got from Dollar Generals. When I'm in the game, man, I'm in the game. I'll do anything and I'll buy anything and I'll go anywhere to do stuff. But I haven't figured it out down here except for clothing. It's really hard. Actually, no, I can't say that. Not true. Got some Harley Davidson bags from the Goodwill that I'm going to be selling. So I don't know, man. I don't hate this. I'm not embarrassed by it. I don't care about stigma. I don't care about dogma. I haven't had to work for anybody else for 2 or 3 years, and I owe a lot of that to eBay. And I don't like them. I don't like eBay. But thank you, eBay. And thank you for the other resellers who kept me going, and guys like Matt. And, he's not even around much anymore. But he really helped me protect my back because I realized my back would get jacked up and I didn't think too much about it. And here's somebody who made videos saying about how this is how it fucks up your back. And I was like, thanks, kid, man, you're all right. And I bought his manifesto because of it. So the world spins round and round, and people, you meet new people on the journey. That's what sometimes they say soulmates are. Soulmates aren't this person you fall in love with. They're the people who they change your path on the big journeys, the spiritual journey, the life journeys, all that stuff, or they influence you in a certain way, or they're there at the right milestone, at the right place, at the right time, and whatever that may be. So yeah, for me, a lot of it was YouTube, and it led me back to eBay, where I already had roots and didn't know it, and then I had a business, I didn't even know it. I just had to stock the shelves and get selling, which is pretty amazing. And anybody can do it. Anybody can do that. However, just know now it's pretty onerous. They take a lot of fees. Nothing's free. That's why I know a lot of people who don't want to sell online because they go, I thought you get the money. I'm like, no. Well, on eBay, sometimes I'm lucky I clear 50%. But if I were in the mall, I'd be lucky I clear 15% after having to pay the fire marshal and this tax and this fee and this rent and this blah, 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 and this community blah, 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 and this donate to this thing and do that. I'm like, here, I get to make those decisions. Nobody gets to make those decisions. Man, I don't have to see people. And I get along great with people when I don't have to see them all the time. Talking on the, leaving reviews and feedbacks. I have 21 years of excellent feedback. It's not an issue. And most people, I don't lie because I don't mislead on my listings. I don't want the hassles. I give free refunds. I don't care. It's just like make my life easier. If somebody bought it, I appreciate that they will have their, just to buy a used piece of clothing, I think you're a cool person. And if you're buying a funky CD off of me or a book, it's probably a cool one too. Because I don't really keep too much junky stuff around. It's got to be interesting. Like vintage war era rifle scopes. What the fuck do I know about them? Nothing, but they saved my life. There you go. But it was a wacky decision. It was a business decision at the time. If I leave you with anything, I leave you with, it was a business decision at the time. I knew that if I keep this cash on hand, it's not going to grow. I'm going to spend it, and that's that. If I can invest it in something I can flip, I could slowly recoup that money and make more. And that's exactly what happened. And that's the nature of business. And that's the nature of being entrepreneurial. Not, I'm going to own 40 businesses. I'm not going to work for somebody else. And that happened. And it can happen for you. It's not always great, but it's better. I'll tell you, it's different. It's not always great. It's not always better, but it's different. And I'll take it. And the only thing that's bad is, of course, benefits and stuff like that. And, you know, there's no regimented hours. I work wacky hours, but that's because I'm also writing and playing music and doing this and that. And this allows me to do that. And I got myself a place to live that's cheap down south that affords me to do that. So I'm further away from people, but like, look at me. Like, I'm not the mental case I was just a year ago. So, something to be said for that. And today I'm grateful to YouTube, to eBay, to your Nerdle Scopes, to the people out there, my customers, to my friends, to, you know, anyone who's going through the same stuff, to my family who are all moving and grooving and doing funky things. My ex is doing pretty good. She's moved to a new place. My son's in college. He's doing pretty good. And like, when you step back and take a breath, I got to just have some gratitude for a change, because I'm always waiting for the other shoe to fall, the sort of Damocles to land on my head. And right now, the only thing we got is heat and sunshine and a nice canopy to block it. So I got nothing to complain about. I'm gonna make another cup of coffee, overpriced coffee on top of it. Ain't I a stud? Oh God. All right, peace out, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Take care of each other. If no one told you they love you, I do. And yeah, let's go grill, baby. Grill, baby, grill. Peace out.